Welcome back to the Gadget Lab.
Welcome. Well, thank you very much for having me, man. It's really...
It's been too long.
The problem is we don't do it enough, but yes,
That's
absolutely.
Right.
It's been quite some time, and not only am I back, but also we have some really cool gadgets to talk about today. We're going to talk a little bit about both the Rokid Max and, of course, the Xreal Air. Both of these glasses, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what they do, but at their core, they're big displays in glasses that fit in your pocket, and
that's pop them on your shirt just like a pair of sunglasses, and then put them on your face, and you see a big screen projection.
And I think this is going to be a really good video for us to do a two-parter. We're going to do one part talking about the actual glasses themselves, and then we're going to do part two. It's going to be over on Juan's channel, and that's going to talk about the brains about these. What are the what these companies are trying to offer us is auxiliary options to be able to enjoy content on these glasses on the go.
Correct.
So definitely very nice, and let's go ahead and start focusing on both the Rokid Max and the Xreal Air. We're going to start off by talking about form factor.
Yes.
Both of these are glasses, and again, as we said before in the introduction, they provide you a large display within these glasses. They both have two displays on them, or two smaller displays that are basically projecting images. The difference between the two may be very minute, but it's going to come down to a personal preference.
Right.
Rokid provides us a large display that goes to 120 hertz refresh rate as far as the refresh rate and the resolution built in, over a USB-C connection.
Same thing, USB-C cable over one ear, slightly narrower field of view than the Rokid Max. And out of the box, most of the operation is going to be at 60 hertz, but with newer firmware updates and some of these other auxiliary devices, we have seen the refresh rate crank up for the Xreal Air, but not necessarily for content, more for the augmented reality.
And I think it helps make the experience a little bit smoother, which threw me off a little bit at the beginning when I first had them on. and I really thought about it. Yeah, it makes perfect sense why they would have to do it, especially these are intended to be used on like airplanes, cars, outdoors, not just sitting stationary. You could be moving in a car, or in a situation where there's a lot of movement. So it definitely very nice. The other thing we want to talk about is neither one of these has built-in power. So both require power over USB-C, and they used USB-C. This is the reason why we're only focusing also on the Rokid and the Xreal. We're not putting in TCL in the conversation a little bit. Two things. They don't have an external source of a brain outside of it. Also, they use a proprietary cable.
So we can't even use the TCLs easily with some of these other options yet until we can get other options for cabling. And that was one of, I think, both of our, not necessarily criticisms of the TCL, but just a concern you need to be aware of in a proprietary cable with a magnetic attachment. It changes some of the operation with some of these other gadgets and accessories.
It works great, it snaps on really nice, but it does limit the functionality.
So that's why we're focusing just on these two brands right now, because they both very recently have made noise about new glasses and new
external options. No, exactly. And you'll find out more about the Rokid Station and
in part two,
and the X-Beam, the Xreal Beam in part two. But so that was step one. First, obviously, they both use USB-C, no power inside.
So we talked about the mini OLEDs, 1080p resolution, similar field of view, slight advantage going to the Rokids.
I was about to say exactly.
But the other part of that is, it's funny because we're only talking a matter of months difference between these two, but the Xreal design is just a little bit older, a couple months older than the Rokid Max. And you can kind of see in the sort of the refinement of the design on Rokid glasses, how they blended the birdbath optics into the frame. So the projectors shoot down, and then this scooped lens points that into your eye. Well, on the Rokid Max, you can see how it tapers and blends into the frame of the glasses better. On the Xreal, especially when you don't have a bright image up on the screen, you can kind of see the outline of where those optics are floating out in space.
If there's a light, especially coming in from
the
cross light coming in, and you're like you were saying, you were not using the actual cover that we have in there, which both have the option of blacking out. So that's one of the upgrades that I like about them, is you can use them to see through. So in case you want to be a little bit more aware of your environment, or you can put on, let's say an example here, same thing. You put on the actual shades, you cover it up, you have a much better image coming out of it, and you lose, of course, all the front experience, see-through, but you're getting a better image and you get that experience just more personal.
The funny thing is, especially for the Rokid Max, that subtle tweak to the lens design and the optics design one of the big selling points is they're also a little bit less visible to people seeing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So if I put these on my face and I have a spreadsheet up, you won't be able to read every little cell from, across a cafe table, but you will see that I'm doing something. Now you'll still see an image on the Rokid, but the Rokids are a little bit more discreet. And again, it's just that iterative evolution of how these optics work. And these companies are learning a lot with every product that they manufacture.
I will say that even though the optics are designed slightly different, the images on these are both very clear. And we're going to talk a little bit about how they actually configure those images. Rokid does also introduce diopters, the ability of configuring your image. This works more for, well, actually it works with more types of vision. That's the best way to say
Again,
it.
especially focused on people who are nearsighted.
Exactly, and I think that's the biggest thing for me. Every time I put them on, I know that I'm able to configure this to work perfectly for me. My son puts them on, the exact same situation. He configures the diopters, it works great. It's something that you have to do every single time, although you can configure it once. That's something that you have to be aware of. But it keeps that experience personal.
So I disagree.
Okay.
Having spent a little more time with the Xreal, you've spent a little more time with the Rokid. Every time I put the Rokid Air and the Rokid Max on my face, I feel I have to make some little adjustment to the diopters. Now there are no diopters on the Xreal, so if you're nearsighted, you're gonna have to look at lens, you can get lens attachments that can correct for that.
Yeah.
But there is a subtle difference to how Xreal focuses their optics further out. So I'm wearing the Rokid Max and I feel like this is a huge image, but it's pulled a little bit closer, and that would be a bigger issue if I were nearsighted and I would really need those diopters. But I'm farsighted, so every time I have to make an adjustment on the Rokid, it's like, oh, okay, I'm fiddling with this a little bit, but these focus the image out in space just a little bit farther. Being farsighted, that makes it easier for me to just pop these on my face and go.
It makes sense because when I was trying them on right before we start shooting, I realized that I didn't have to focus as hard to try to figure out where the image turned very clear, and I am farsighted, so it worked out better for me. Obviously, since we're on displays all the time, it's like farsightedness is going to be pretty much where we are.
I have like 5 screens turned off in the lab right now.
So those are some of the things you want to kind of keep in mind when you're looking at one of these pairs of glasses. Not that the image isn't clear, it's just the way the image is perceived and what you need to do. If you need to adjust, this is going to give you a little bit more control. You will need to configure this almost every single time. These are a little bit more for the farsighted, and you do need to have the inserts if you're more nearsighted.
That's right.
Something to keep in mind. But let's talk a little bit also more, since we're talking about physical aspects. You'll notice that mine kind of looks more like a triangle, yours looks more squarish, and that may also be another decision that may make you think one over the other. When I'm wearing these, I find that it always kind of hits around my eyes, and this is something kind of like my glasses right now. They're touching my skin. These, I found that they've sat a little bit more comfortable.
They're a little looser, and I feel like you can kind of mash them up against your face a little bit easier because they're not angling in quite as dramatically.
More, I feel like almost like classic glasses, like, the black rim glasses, they really fit very nicely. The next thing we want to talk about, obviously, and definitely this is a big difference between how you use these and other glasses. Rokid has decided basically to put most of, or almost all of their brains of the processing that's done on these glasses within the actual bridge of the glasses. So it's sitting right in front of you, pretty much at the center of your temple. And it decided to also go around and put the sensor for it, the proximity sensor.
Both of these, when you take the glasses off, obviously you don't need to keep burning the OLED, so it
which is really nice.
Off. It's really handy.
And for Rokid, they decided to put it on the side, but that's one of the things that may be a difference between you, because if you wear them for some time, it does get a little bit toasty in front of you.
Heat concentrates in different places. So the Xreal are the exact opposite. There's a sensor in the bridge right on top of your nose, and that's where it detects whether the glasses are on your face.
Exactly.
And then one of the arms, the opposite arm from the USB-C cable, houses more of the components that help drive the displays. So heat concentration tends to stay over your right temple as opposed to right between your eyes. For brief stints, both of these are really comfortable. I can easily write a document on this. But if you're looking at this for longer term use, or you're going to take like an international flight, like my boy TK is doing a lot recently, I find that the way that this pools heat to one side is a little bit more comfortable than the heat being generated more right between my eyes.
And for me, that was much more of a bigger difference for me, because the glasses one, when I'm wearing them, don't sit close to my skin. They're not touching my skin the way this is actually really close to me. I do want to clarify, by when we say the word heat, we're not talking about like obviously melting temperatures. We're talking essentially
Components generate heat, and where that heat lives is a part of how it interacts with your biology.
Exactly, and that is something that other glasses, other companies have actually had. You do need to be aware of. Most of them generated in the front.
It
I
stays
feel like this is a win.
way cooler than a premium phone from 2022.
Absolutely, but I feel like the implementation on the Xreal is.
But here's the surprise I got for you.
Okay.
Because you're worried about like the angle and how they fit against your head and all that other stuff too. And
literally after using it
and
so
if
much.
if it's like a concern, on the Xreal, you can also change the angle of the housings on the arms with these little click. It's like you're popping knuckles. It doesn't sound great.
It's like you just broke the glasses, but okay.
You can change the angle of the entire housing, so this can actually point a little further away from you, or you can get them sort of like looking through at a different angle. It's a really handy adaptation that you wouldn't think of, because anytime you bend glasses, you pretty much just break them.
I would, hold on a second.
Those are my backs. They don't do that.
Hey, it worked. They're like, it doesn't break.
It works.
No, dear God.
Once.
So again, from a form factor, depending on how you're comfortable wearing glasses, if you're used to wearing glasses like myself, I don't have a problem with them being close to my face. It's more about, again, it's the feel, the usability. I've been very comfortable using these, and I actually worn them for over 2 hours. Again, I edit videos using my glasses. And this is not a 10, 20-minute thing. We're required to be not only clear images, also reflective, no reflection, the ability of blacking out the background, and being able to see exact pieces or where you are on the timeline. It's exactly all the things that you want.
I know we're staging this as like an either or, but for both of us, these experiences have been fantastic, and the different devices that we paired them with. But it does come down, I doubt many people are looking to own 3 or 4 different pairs of glasses. So you really want to look at what kinds of features and fit and finish are going to matter to you. If you're going to be really bothered by sort of cross-light reflections distracting you on the periphery of your vision, you probably don't want to go Xreal. But I have found that, especially if you're farsighted, the ability to adjust angle and have a broader fit on my big fat head has made these a little bit more comfortable to wear for longer stretches.
For me, although I've gotten used to using these for quite some time, it was easy for me to step into these much easier, like almost not even having to think about it. For editing, watching movies, 60 frames per second is going to be absolutely fantastic. There's not an issue there. If you really need to be able to push the high refresh rate for gaming and your system can push the video, this is going to give you a little bit of an, and it's easier to activate the 60 to 120 conversion and not really relying so much on third-party or applications or even modules. Straight connection to your phone, to your PC, to your gaming system. It's going to be a toss-up at the end, but what I probably will say is find the one that fits what you need and what you're looking for, and you're not going to be disappointed.
And lastly, just to kind of bring it up because I'm the audio nerd, when we were playing with the Rokid Air, it was one of my biggest criticisms of the Rokid Air were the really thin and tinny speakers. And the Xreal were sort of the middle option. I felt like TCL probably had the best version of the last generation, but with the Rokid Max, I think Rokid has kind of leapfrog. Especially where they were before, the speakers from here, I think we're dealing with similar clarity for stuff like dialogue in movies, but these can rumble a little bit more. So especially for gaming and watching films, especially action films.
Or even if you're on a plane, this actually, if you push it up to 100%, you can actually hear it.
Yeah.
It actually gets pretty good.
Probably not great for your ears, but you can do it.
Well, on a plane, you're automatically, or you're always going to be bombarded with the white noise that comes from the plane.
Right.
So in a weird way, the volume level is trying to break through the noise more so than trying to push that much sound.
And I felt like the major changes that Rokid had made to this design really helped facilitate a broader, more colorful audio landscape in more environments, in more places. And the idea of these are, you really do start to want to take these out with you and try different things with them. If you're in your home and everything's quiet and it doesn't really matter, but when you're out at a cafe or you're out at like a coffee shop or you're on a road trip or you're on an airplane, those little audio differences can help.
And both do come with cases, protective cases, to be able to not only house your glasses, put them in there, house the cables that you need, the USB-C cable. The Rokid also has a little extra compartment for any additional things in there. Hard shell cases, so you're not going to be damaging them. When I say put them in your pocket and go, I obviously mean make sure you're protecting them. These are glasses at the end of the day.
But the last time I flew with them, it was really nice where I've got my wife and my daughter, we've got bags and suitcases, I've got these glasses on my face, and I did just put them in a shirt pocket to get off the plane.
Okay.
And that was really easy. It wasn't like another thing. Like you've got your laptop and you've got to close it and put it in the bag and do all this stuff. And I did. I just took them off, put them in, got my daughter all set up. We walked off the plane. And then when we were at the gate, I could take them and put them back in the hard case. Any other accessory, because we've been really big fans of things like portable monitors and laptop docks and all these other types of ways that you can expand an image from another mobile computer. This has been one of the most convenient. It's just also one of the most exotic. So this is going to be a little bit more expensive than buying a good portable 1080p OLED.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's so much more convenient when you're really on the go.
On the go, and yeah, just there's no better way of saying it. Exactly.
So basically, I won the debate. I win.
I think the judgment
made
has to be
salient
made after
points.
part 2. Let's keep the judgment call for the after part 2, right?
Well, let's do this. For comments on TK's channel, what are some of the options or features that you would want to see? Because we're not talking VR, and these are very rudimentary for what we would call AR. But for a practical portable display, what kind of features or settings appeal most to you?
And if you've used one of the two options, please let us know which one do you. What are the things that you like about them the most? Definitely.
Definitely.
So like and subscribe as usual. Make sure to check out Juan's information. They'll be in the description below, of course, for part 2. And we'll see you guys. Actually, we'll see you guys in part 2. Yeah. Make sure to just hop over on part 2. We're there.
This conversation continues.
Absolutely.